Have you ever been working under a car and you just can't quite get that control arm to pull down? You can't get the bolt broke loose. You cannot get the subframe lined up. All these challenges happen when you're doing steering and suspension work underneath or dropping cradles out for engines and transmissions. Nuts and bolts with Tone here, guys. I have compiled a list of tools that I have found to be some of the must-haves for working under the car, whether you're doing steering, suspension, dropping down a cradle to do an engine or a transmission, or replace a rack and pinion. Whatever it is that you're doing under the car, these tools are going to save you time and money and just make things a lot easier.
All right, so first up on the list is an impact. You're going to need an impact. Now, I recommend this one because it has extremely high amount of breakaway torque. Now, you can get an air gun. I have air guns. I have cordless tools. I generally break out the cordless tools because they're just more powerful and they're more convenient. So this is Milwaukee's brand new brushless high torque impact with a friction ring. Now, this thing has 1,200 foot-pounds of fastening torque. But the reason that you want this tool is because of right here, 1,600 foot-pounds of breakaway torque. Now, that is a lot. That's very, very strong. Now, the other thing that this gun has that's really nice, and a lot of Milwaukee guns have this, is they have a 4-mode drive. Now, what that means is you have a high torque, a medium torque, and a low torque. And then they have an auto torque where, let's say you're breaking away a lug nut or a lug bolt, and as soon as it breaks loose, that impact is screaming, right? Tons of RPMs. And then what happens is that bolt, now that there's no torque on it, it comes off fast. And then what does it do? It flies across the shop. And hopefully you can find it, but I mean, we have been in situations where we couldn't find it. So what that 4th mode does, that auto mode does, is as soon as it detects that the torque is broke loose, it reduces the RPMs to reduce the bolts flying around. Or if you're torquing something down, as soon as it detects that you've torqued it tight, it lets up on the torque so you don't over torque things. Lug nuts especially. That's the main focus for it, but personally, I don't use it, but one of the features that I do like is the fact that it does reduce the torque. Now, this is a really nice impact. This is brand new. I actually have the generation before this one, so this is my first recommendation. Now, you can get an air tool that will work well, but like I said, I'm not covering every kind of tool that you can get. Now, the next tool, and then another big benefit to this is you get those axle nuts and things like that that are really tight. You're going to need something with some serious breakaway torque. Now, next up on the list is the M12 Stubby 1/2-inch Impact. This is actually a 1/2-inch impact. I will link a 3/8. The 1/2-inch impact is probably better for undercar stuff because a lot of your bolts, sometimes they're 24 millimeter, sometimes they're bigger than that. And not everybody has a 24 millimeter and a 3/8. Or let's say you got to go bigger. You're 1 inch, 27 millimeter. Well, you're not going to be able to get a 3/8 at that. And when you put an adapter on there to adapt to a bigger socket, you lose torque. Now, I picked this kit here because it has a 4.0 battery, a 2.5 battery, and a charger. Now, one other option is to go to Home Depot, and you can get, a lot of times you can get this tool and you can get a battery kit. So I bought one where I bought this gun from Sac Fasteners here in Sacramento, and it came with a 2.5 high output battery. Well, for some reason I was thinking this 2.5 battery here was this big boy, because I was new to the Milwaukee. So I bought it with this and a charger, not really realizing that, oh no, it didn't come with the charger. And then once I got it, opened up the box, I was like, oh man, this isn't what I want. So you can get a 5 amp battery for this, which is bigger, But this is a pretty good kit right here. You got the 1/2-inch stubby, and you got a 4.0 battery and a 2.5 high output battery. So pretty good kit right there. I use this gun all the time. I generally will use my big gun for breaking lug nuts loose, axle nuts, things like that. And I get this out and I take everything else apart. Tie rods, ball joints, everything. Engine mounts, rack bushings, subframe bolts. I use this for almost everything. So definitely a tool you want in your arsenal. Again, you can get air guns that work good. They're just not going to be stubby. They're not going to give you the torque that this is going to give you. Let's see. And this one has 250 foot-pounds of breakaway torque. And I will have all the tools linked down below. The next up, now I'm going to show you a video of this tool in action. This tool is phenomenal. This is a 1/2-inch Capri Tools flex head air angle impact. Now the reason I included this, it's an air tool, but because there are a lot of times where you need this angle right here. I have used this gun with this head folded all the way over with a wobble socket and been able to get into those pesky control arm bolts on Hondas where you can't get guns into. So I really like this gun. I'm going to put a link right now of this gun in use to show you just how powerful this tool is. Got the Capri Flex Head 1/2-inch drive impact for these brakes. Gonna put it on there. Look at how well it fits. Look at that. Boom, baby. Capri Tools, let's go. But definitely recommend this. And Capri Tools, great company, great tools. I have a lot of their stuff, and I strongly recommend that tool brand. There's a few tool brands that you're going to notice in here that I have a reoccurring brand, and that is Capri Tools, Mayhew Tools, and I think I only have one of the Sunex, but definitely some some awesome tools. I strongly recommend. So that's there. Now we got one more piece of hardware that we're going to need to get this undercar stuff done, and that is an air hammer. Now this is subject to opinion. I picked an Aircat because I personally have a Matco. I have a coworker with Snap-on. There's all the people posting with the brand new Snap-on air hammers. I've never used it. Aircat is a great brand, and they make great tools. So, and I'm also trying to do this to keep it kind of budget friendly, so you're not out there. Not everybody can go and buy the highest quality tool because it's expensive. I mean, you know, unless you make a bunch of money, you do this all the time, you know, it's hard to come by Snap-on prices. So nowadays you can get a lot of tools at a lower cost that do just as good of a job. Now, why do you want an air hammer? Well, back when I started, we got an air hammer because you used a pickle fork on ball joints and tie rods, because that's what I was taught to do. Well, that was short-lived. I didn't do that very long because, well, air hammers destroy ball joints and tie rods. So I generally only do that as a last-ditch effort. I usually just use a big hammer. I'll show you some bits that I recommend to go with this. I did not recommend any pickle forks or anything like that because I don't believe in them and I almost never use mine. Next up, got to get the wheels off of... Oh, and then this thing had, let's see, it's a medium stroke, has 3,000 blows per minute. So, and you can compare. I did a lot of comparison. This is the one I picked because it was pretty much a decent air hammer at a decent price. So, got to get the lug nuts off. Now, I met these guys, CTA Tools, at SEMA this past year, and they are awesome. They are a family-owned company. Their tools are lifetime warranty, and if you've seen any of my YouTube shorts, I have posted a lot of YouTube shorts from their booth at SEMA because they had so many awesome tools, and I couldn't cover it in one video or even two. So this set here, it's got the traditional 19 and 21 millimeter flip socket. It's got the short extension that you use with flip sockets, and then it also has a 21 and a 20, a 21 and a 21 and a half, a 22 and a 22 and a half, and an 18 and a half and a 19 and a half. Now, the reason that you want these half sizes are, so Ford lug nuts are 2-piece lug nuts, and Chrysler does it where the outside of the lug nut swells from the inside, and you can't get them off with a regular 19 millimeter anymore, so you got to go to a 19 and a half. Or let's say they were 18 millimeters to start with, now they're 18 and a halves. So, and I've come across some lug nuts on a very few vehicles that the original lug nuts were half sizes. I can't recall, but I've had 2 where they were newer vehicles and their lug nuts were half sizes. So CTA Tools, I just picked this one. It was a pretty decent price. I wasn't trying to get a giant set that was going to break the bank. Next up, you got to have some sockets. Now, when you're using sockets, you want wobble sockets when you're dealing with suspension. There's 2 kinds of sockets that you want. You want wobble sockets, you want impact wobble sockets, and you want shallow sockets. The reason that you want that is when you use, if you know this, great. If you're new to the industry or you didn't know this took me many years to learn. Let's say you're doing a 21 millimeter and you don't have a 21 millimeter wobble. So you take that 21 and you add a universal to it. Then you put it on your gun. You just lost a lot of torque by adding all of those joints in there. So you lose a lot of torque by adding universals and stuff like that. So I also included this because I personally have this set at work. All of my impact wobbles are Sunex tools. I've got quarter drive, 3/8, 3/8 deep, and a giant set of 1/2 inch impact wobbles. And I love them. The warranty is fantastic. They're super easy. You contact the warranty department and they ask you for a picture of the socket and a part number. That's it. They don't ask you how it broke. They don't tell you to show the broken part. They just say the socket and the part number. Usually you're doing that because you can't see the part number anymore because it's usually pretty damaged just from use around this edge here where the part number is. So I like Sunex tools and they work great and they're very affordable. So a long time ago, the reason I got Sunex tools was I went on my Mack truck and I said, hey man, I'm ready to finally bite the bullet and invest my left arm into getting some impact wobble sockets. And he told me he wasn't selling me Mack tools. He was going to sell me the Sunex because they work just as good and the warranty works just as good. And he was not wrong. And so from there, I bought all the rest. So if you don't have any Sunex tools, you're missing out. Sunex tools makes great tools. Now the next tool that you want, now you're going to want this because there is a lot of times where you just can't put a socket on a ratchet or a gun and get it in where you need it to go because it's just, there's not any room. So what this does is you have this socket here, and right here, the size of this socket from this point to this point is probably a good 1/4 of an inch shorter. It's a lot more than that on the 1/2 inch. A 1/2 inch shorter than a normal 21 millimeter. And so when you take this with your ratchet, you're still just about the size of a regular socket. Now, Capri Tools, I told you before, now this is the 1/2 inch set. They have a 3/4, they have a 3/8 as well. But I only did the 1/2 inch here because you're not going to be using 3/8 stuff a lot. So this one goes from 22 to 8 milli. Lifetime warranty on the Capri Tools. The next up, you're going to want some front end joint splitters. So this is a really great company here, OMT. If you don't have any tools from them, you're also missing out. They make great tools. Now this is a Pitman arm puller. Honestly, this kind of Pitman arm puller is really tough because it puts so much stress on the portion right here. You're putting a lot of stress on a Pitman arm. And one of the things that people do with Pitman arm pullers is they put a Pitman arm puller on and they try to just gun it until the Pitman arm pops. I personally gun it in until it's tight, and then I whack the side of the Pitman arm with a hammer, and then I gun the Pitman arm puller some more, and I whack the Pitman arm, and a lot of times I can get it to pop. On the Chevy trucks, where the Pitman arm is this close to the front cross member, you're supposed to remove the gearbox or have a special puller to get it off. I have, in some cases where I was only doing the pitman arm, I have been able to break that pitman arm loose without taking the gearbox off with just a hammer. And a lot of arm power. I was tired. I had a big hammer and, maybe some very long, very, big pieces of metal to use as a punch. So, and this has got right here, these work great for tie rods, things like that. You're going to be breaking the loose ball joints, all that stuff. So OMT, they also have a great warranty. And this is a 5-piece set. Now, Mayhew Tools. Now, this is the one air hammer set that I did include. Like I said, I'm not going to show you any pickle forks because I don't recommend them. I mean, you probably should have one in your box just because there are those components that are getting replaced and you can't get them loose. And so what I've had to do in those situations is use my pickle fork and hammer it in there and then try to come from the other side with an air hammer and one of these bits and vibrate whatever the component and then hit the pickle fork some more and then vibrate it loose. Those are on extreme cases. So this is a good set right here. It's a 4-piece set from Mayhew Tools. They also have a lifetime warranty on a lot of their tools, and a lot of their tools are made in the USA. I also met them at SEMA. They are an awesome company with a lot of great tools. And I think they're the only company that has their Pry Bar screwdrivers where the screwdriver comes all the way through the handle. So when you hit the handle and you're hitting the screwdriver, you're hitting the actual screwdriver portion that's going through the handle. You're not just hitting a handle. So pretty unique design. Next up right here, let me tell you what, if you don't have this Pry Bar right here, you don't know what you're missing. This is a 58-inch Dominator Pry Bar. Now my coworker, he has like a 58-inch snap-on Pry Bar, and we've used them side by side. And there has not been one time that my Dominator did not do something that his snap-on would do. And I guarantee you, he paid at least 3 times the amount for his snap-on, if not more. Can't even imagine how much that snap-on one costs. But anyways, this is their Dominator. Great Pry Bar. I use this thing all the time, and now you can get it in a bunch of colors. I think mine's red. Red and black. Haven't been at work for a few months, so been a minute. Next up. Now, you probably own a set of Pry Bars, but I figured since we're already with showing you Mayhew and you already going to know the quality from using that Dominator, they also make great Pry Bars. And this is a 5-piece set. Very strong Pry Bars. Not going to go on and on about them because they're the same. Now, this one comes with a 7-inch, 12-inch, 18, 24, and then the 31 is a straight one. So, works great. I recommend it. Now, next up, I just showed these in my Tones Tools Tuesday recently. So what this does is this is a tool. It's called a bolt breaker. And so what you do is you put your air hammer on here, and let's say you've got a bolt that won't come loose, and it isn't letting go. You put your air hammer on here, and you put your socket on here, and you put a wrench here. And while you're air hammering it, you apply loosening pressure on this portion of the bolt breaker, and it will rattle that bolt loose, and you'll be able to get it out and get on your way quicker than if you were having to get a torch out and then you got to order the bolts and all that. And it's only $33, so super cheap. And if you work on really big stuff, they have a 3/4 set also. They have a 3/4 by itself, or they have the 3/8, half, and 3/4 set. I didn't get that one because I don't really use 3/4 sockets very often. Thankfully, I don't want to work on anything that big. Now, this is a tool that I will include a little video with. Okay, if you do steering and suspension work at all, transmissions, anything like that, a tool you need that will make your life easier is this. It's an S Hook. It's from OTC. You put it on the control arm like that. Much easier with 2 hands. You put your Pry Bar in like this, and all you do is give it a pull down, and look at that. Control arm is released, and you can pull it out. Piece of cake. All right, so now this is the OTC 6007 lower control arm prying tool. Now, I did a YouTube short on this, and you wouldn't believe how many people just don't understand how things work when you're doing things, because people thought that this tool was for pulling the ball joint out of its hole, for breaking the ball joint loose from the knuckle or the lower control arm or whatever it's attached to. And those people, I'm sorry, but you really aren't paying attention to how things work. This tool is not for breaking the ball joint loose. If you know anything about how things work, you're not going to pull a ball joint out of its hole. It is in there and it's hammered down in a tapered seat. This is strictly to give you easy leverage for your pry bar. You put this flat part right here on the top side of the lower control arm, and you put your pry bar through here, and you can rest your pry bar on anything underneath that control arm, the control arm itself, the subframe, it doesn't matter, and it gives you leverage to pull down the arm. I can't tell you how many times over so many years that I was doing undercar work, and you're trying to find a place to put the pry bar. You've got the pry bar going on top of the lower control arm, and you've got like this much of the pry bar on the subframe, and you're pulling down while you're trying to hit it and break it loose, and then your pry bar slips off, or there's nowhere to get leverage. So all this does is it simply gives you an easy way to get leverage. Some guys say they use a chain and a bolt. Whatever. If you want to get a chain out and unthread a bolt and put a chain on there and thread the bolt back in, put your pry bar in there, pull the control arm down, then unthread the bolt, take the bolt out, take the chain off, thread the bolt back. If you want to do all of that, that is fine. I do this to make money, and time is money, and $14.59 is nothing for the amount of time you're going to save yourself, even in just a year. If you can't save yourself $14 in time in a year by using this tool, then either you're not doing very much undercar work or you're not very efficient, because there's no way in the world that this can't save you money and time. It's my opinion. It saves me money, saves me time. So, hey, if it doesn't for you and you can do it fast with a chain, that's great. But this is my recommendation for a tool must-have. Now, the last actual tool that I'm going to show you is this. So if you have ever dropped a cradle down and you've set it on jack stands, or you've got a like a big roll around cart that you can put the cradle on. You know, we've got a blue one that's got adjustable arms, and you can set your front cross member, your whole front cross member on there, and you can set it all up and then lift the car up and it drops it down. You've got your engine and your transmission drop down. If you've ever been trying to realign that, or you're trying to put a control arm in and you're trying to align the hole, let me tell you, if you don't use this, I mean, if you have something that works great, that's awesome. But I use this right here. These ladyfoot pry bars here are amazing. You stick this end in here, right here, and you can line up the hole, use a pry bar, apply some pressure, and then you can put your bolt in. So this is a 3-piece set. You got the smaller one for those little small holes, and then the medium, and then obviously the big ones are for your subframes. So that is a very good tool, and they also work really well for popping out spark plug tube seals of valve covers. That is what I use. I just come over there, you just give it a little bit of and pop them all out. Just go through, pops them out super easy. I've never found anything that pops them out easier than a lady's foot pry bar. So, and super affordable, $87 for 3 of them, and it's Mayhew Tools. It's lifetime warranty. Can't go wrong. Now, the last tool and its accessory is for those bolts that you just can't get loose. Maybe it's rusty. Maybe you live in the Rust Belt and things just suck to work on. I can't imagine working on cars in the Rust Belt, New York, all those places. No, sir. I will pass on all that. I have no desire. I'll just pay a fortune to live in California. I don't like it. I don't want to work on that kind of stuff. But for anyone that has bolts that you got to break loose and they don't come out, you've got subframe bolts. Well, a lot of times when you're dropping subframes, you have to disconnect exhaust bolts. Well, a lot of times exhaust bolts, they don't like to come out, even in California. So what you do is you put one of these on there, you get the bolt red hot. Actually, let me put a little video of what that looks like right here. And you can see just how well it works. So what this is you take this tool and you put this coil right here around the bolt. And you want to find a coil that is the closest to the bolt size, so there's less space in between the coil and the bolt for heat to transfer. And so electricity passes through one side, it goes around the coils, it goes around the other side, and it heats this thing up. So the video that I just posted, I think it was about 40-ish seconds, and it heated up the exhaust bolt red hot. The bolt was seized, it wouldn't loosen up at all, and I was going to have to do all kinds of exhaust work I didn't want to do if I didn't have this tool. There would have been no way to get it off without this or a torch. But I didn't really want to use a torch. I have this tool. Now sometimes, so this comes with a coil, and one of the things that you're going to want with this tool, now this is the originator of the induction heater. The other company that's out there, they are not the originator. They did not invent this. I actually talked to the inventor while I was at SEMA. The guy did a bunch of demonstrations with a bunch of different products. He's the one that came up with this idea and invented it. So pretty awesome guy, and a lot of really cool tools. The next thing you're going to want, though, is you're going to want a long coil kit. You're going to want to be able to get into places that you can't normally get to, like exhaust bolts or up and over cross members and things like that. Maybe it's a sway bar that's seized up and you can't get it off, whatever. So you're going to want to get a long coil kit. And like I said, I'll have all these tools linked down below. And this right here will save you so much time. And I'm telling you, if you don't have one of these and you use it, you will never, ever not want one. It is amazing. And then they actually even have a couple of straight ones like this that come, it's called a bearing buddy. And so what it is you wrap it around something and then you can heat it up, whatever it is, an EGR, maybe you got your EGRs stuck. You can wrap that around the nut of the EGR and then plug it into the induction heater. And it 40-something seconds, and it's red hot. So you can't go wrong. And that is the list of tools.
Now that you've seen this video, if you didn't know about some of these tools, that's awesome. I'm happy to help you. If you did know about these tools, or maybe you have a tool that you think should be on the list, drop it down in the comment and let me know, because I am always up for learning about new tools to make life a lot easier. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that bell so you get notified of all my future content, which you definitely don't want to miss. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.